You're listening to a Frequency Podcast Network production.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
This is the Brock and Dalby Podcast.
Welcome to whatever day you're listening to this is. My name is Brock.
I'm Dalby.
And right now we're doing a little podcast exclusive live from WWE Elimination Chamber at the Skydome.
It kind of felt like we had to do something work official to make it feel like we earned our spot here because we're sitting in the Blue Jays press box at the Skydome.
This is sick, man. We most definitely don't belong here. There's so many like real media people, and then we're just sitting here eating food.
See, because it's funny because we both had the same moment standing outside, looking around and being like, oh, look at all these other media people who are wearing hoodies, T-shirts, a couple people in button-ups, but even like almost like Guy Fieri type button-ups, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay, like we're not the most underdressed people here. But then there were better dressed people, and then the other underdressed people came in and they had like laptops, professional cameras, they're filming stuff, they're editing stuff.
Now, the
we're
thing
just sitting
is,
here watching wrestling.
there's like an all-you-can-eat buffet in here, and I'm wondering, what do you think is the most hot dogs crushed in this press box? I've already had two. I'm wondering how many.
Had two?
I've had 2 dogs. Yeah.
I only had one, and then I also, because they had like maybe the most delicious fried chicken I've ever had.
Like, do you think Buck Martinez just comes here and crushes like 4 dogs before a Jays game? Or
wobbles them down?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, those are like full-on loony dog hot dogs that they had in the press box here. But the thing is like, it's one thing when it's a wrestling event, but I've been in like pro sports press boxes before. I've been lucky enough to be in like some NHL arenas and stuff like that in my career. And it is usually like you're meant to conduct yourself at a certain level of professionalism. Mm-hmm. So I have trouble believing that during like the average baseball game, the MLB.com professionals are in here just like slamming dogs.
having a mustard stain on your shirt.
Dude, I'm so happy I'm wearing a black hoodie and like a yellow Brock and Dalby Show logo across the chest. And the whole time, I immediately regretted putting mustard on that hot dog. I was like, oh no, what have I done? I've never eaten a hot dog more delicately in my life.
I feel like we don't belong here, but I'm stoked. We also took like the best seats in the press box, which is kind of a dick move for 2 guys who shouldn't be here.
No, because just in front of us is a layer that's this like one row a little bit closer, and those were the first ones that got taken up. So we are in the second best seats. And you're right, we should probably be somewhere back closer to like the entrance.
Yeah. No, but this is gonna be sick, man. Like I don't really watch wrestling anymore, but I'm hyped, man. Like the crowd here, the vibes. Saw some dude dressed as like Macho Man Randy Savage before he came in. That's the one thing that sucks is we're kind of trapped in this press box right now. They told us we can't walk around or anything, and I just want to see the people.
The best part of going to wrestling, and I'll say this to people, because people will watch wrestling on TV, especially now that it's on Netflix. It's never been more, I want to say, available for the average fan in Canada. Mm-hmm. And they'll watch it on TV and they'll be like, I don't get it. You know what I mean? Like, it's a scripted sport, all this other stuff. I don't understand it. And I tell them all the same thing. You have to go to a live wrestling show, whether it is a WWE show like this or it's something more akin of like a local independent wrestling show or something like that, because it really is the fans that make it the spectacle that it is.
Well, no doubt. I think there's a lot of people that probably like on their day-to-day maybe don't have this experience to be this stoked about it.
Right.
But like they're amongst their people. I mean, like last night, how many dudes, and like I apologize, like I'm not used to this environment. I was laughing so hard. The amount of dudes I saw walking in with their title belts on their shoulders.
Dude, and their posture's never been so good. They're walking the absolute straightest. Like chiropractors walk through wrestling events and see guys carrying title belts and they're just like, yeah, you're doing it right.
I just feel like if you're carrying around that title belt, like I should be allowed to challenge you for it.
That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is if you're going to walk around and you've got it over your shoulder and your chest is puffed out like you are the toughest guy in the building, then put it on the line right now.
I also thought it was funny when we were leaving, heard some guys saying they were going to Zanzibar, which if you don't know is a strip club here in Toronto, and they had their belts, and I just couldn't help but laugh at a bunch of dudes going to the peelers with their WWE championships.
Yo, does the belt come off in the back room? Like when you go to the back for the lap dance, do you keep the belt on your shoulder?
You got the WWE, you got the John Cena spinner one, you let it spin in on you?
You put it on her back and start spinning it?
Yeah, let her wear it.
She's trying to twerk work to spin the belt.
You know how, like, if you go to a strip club, they always try and, like, strippers always try and find something about you and, like, find that connection just to, like, milk you a little bit more?
Yeah. The more that you feel like you guys are connecting, the more you're likely to give them your bank card.
She gets up and, like, Jeff Hardy, like, swanton bombs onto your crotch. Like, dude, imagine the music in the strip club last night. That was probably sick,
Just
actually.
nothing but bangers.
Time
like,
to play the game.
The Ruthless Aggression album and stuff like that. Do you think that they played the Our Lady Peace Chris Benoit theme in there last night?
I hope some chick came out in Triple H and, like, spit in the air. Dudes probably would pay extra for that.
Dude, guys sitting in the front row, they hear that, "Ba-doom, time to play the game," and they're all just getting excited. She walks out onto the stage, spits up in the air, and all the guys are just open mouth trying to catch the drop.
Yeah. That's an extra 5.
Fell in love last night.
Nah, man, but this is sick, dude. Like, they just dropped down the Elimination Chamber over the ring and stuff, and I don't know, the crowd's filling in pretty nicely here. I mean, I haven't seen this many people at a Jays game in a long time, so it's nice to see the Skydome filled out.
Let me ask you this question, because we're sitting here and we're looking at the Elimination Chamber, which it basically is this giant cage that comes down. It has like these 4 pods in each corner. 2 people start, and then, you know, someone comes out of the pod every few minutes or whatever. Eventually, it's a 6-person cage match.
Yeah, it's like what would happen in Michael Vick's backyard.
Exactly,
yes.
Yeah. with dogs. Yeah. Out of all the matches, there's like this, there's Hell in the Cell, tables, ladders, and chairs, regular cage matches, stuff like that. What do you think we're in an imaginary world where Brock Lewis is a professional wrestler.
I feel like...
What would be your signature match?
Like, if we're just talking about me as, like, a human being,
yeah.
I think, like, just the steel cage match, at least, like, climbing out of it, like, that's the easiest go, right?
Were you a big fence jumper when you were a kid?
I mean, I've been chased by the cops
The mean
before.
streets of Milton.
I've been chased by the cops a few times in high school.
You've hopped your fair share of
I've hopped
chain?
a fair share of fences. I think, like, that's, like, for any human, that's probably, like, realistically the easiest one. Or the ladder match, because, I mean, like, if you watch wrestling, they climb those ladders, like, way too slowly.
Something is wrong with the average wrestler.
But then again, it's like, if you got someone trying to push you off that ladder,
well,
like,
that's
a WSIB claim, so, you know.
It's crazy in, like, the average office or workplace or construction site. Somebody falls off a ladder, it's a really big deal. Like, there's a lot of people that have to get involved. Meanwhile, in the average wrestling ladder match, people fall off all the time. They just pop right back up. It's like it's not real or something.
I have always wanted to go through a table, and I'm not talking like Bill's Mafia, like going through those kind of tables.
Right, yeah.
I would kind of want to get put through a table by, like, the Dudleys or something.
I'm trying to think back to my wrestling career, and
You never was put through a table?
I never went through a table.
You've hit me with a steel chair before.
I've hit you with a steel chair. I've been hit with a steel chair. I got hit with an absurd amount of kendo sticks. There was, I was, and again, it sounds weird to talk about my Alberta independent wrestling career, but I was embroiled in a feud for many months with a guy who also had a manager who used a kendo stick as, like, part of his goth appearance, and he used to beat the fuck out of me with that.
I'm surprised that there hasn't been like a wrestling character called the Stepfather, and he just uses a belt. Something like that. You know how, like, you're like, your dad would, like, crack the belt on you kind of thing? Yeah. Like, that's his threat.
That's his whole thing. Yeah. It's like whenever a wrestler wears, like, a wrestling singlet or, like, spandex, and they'll, like, pull the straps down on the shoulders.
Everyone gets excited.
And that's, you know, like, they're serious.
That's the Hulk Hogan ripping the shirt. Yeah.
When the stepdad pulls the belt off, you're like, oh shit, he's going to the next level.
Yeah. And he doesn't actually have a championship. It's just a giant-ass belt buckle.
He wins the title, and the next week he comes out with this redesigned gold
like how
belt.
Cena changed it. Yeah.
If rapper John Cena can have a spinning title belt, the Stepfather can have a giant leather, like, Levi's belt.
Yeah.
With the biggest fucking bronco-busting belt buckle you've ever seen.
Either the Stepfather, or you just call him, like, Papa or something. Like, that's actually a great idea. I think someone should be talking to us here. I don't know why we're just sitting in the press box when we're coming up with these great ideas.
What you gonna do when your mom leaves me alone with you?
Actually, hold it. You have one character called Mama, and she reports everything back to Papa.
Oh, okay.
And that's how it goes down.
So wait, is there Mama, Papa, and the stepdad?
Yeah.
The stepdad and Papa have a feud.
They have a feud.
And Mama's kind of like, Mama's with the stepdad, but every now and again she looks at Papa and remembers like the good old days.
When she's heel, she's with the stepdad. When she's babyface, she goes with dad.
And then you have like a young rookie wrestler who's playing the role of the kid. Who's just being like 2 Christmases torn back and forth between the two of them.
Yeah.
And then you finally go for it. What they never pulled the trigger on back in the day with Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero with Dominic, you have a custody on a pole match. The stepfather and the father have a match for custody of the child.
Then there's a match for like spousal support and like all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of legs to this, honestly.
There's a lot of ways that it can go. And see, that's the other thing. Is like, there are so many people who are like, oh my God, wrestling's so dumb. It's like a soap opera for... Yes, exactly. It is like a soap opera. It's like watching TV. If you can turn your brain off and just allow the entertainment to happen, that's when wrestling becomes magical, because none of the things, as dumb as all the stuff we just said, none of that is out of the realm of reality for a wrestling promotion.
Well, we went to the SmackDown last night at the Air Canada, or Scotiabank Arena rather, last night.
Yes.
And that's the first time I've actually watched wrestling in a long time, and people were just so hyped. It was adults to kids. It's really cool seeing the kids, because the kids get fired up.
Honestly, yeah. The after the TV show was done, sort of SmackDown on the Friday night, Cody Rhodes, who's like the heavyweight champion right now, he comes out and he's standing in the middle of the ring and he's got this like custom weight belt, autographed Leafs logo on it.
Yeah.
He brought a kid out of the crowd, and that kid looked like he had a heart attack and shit his pants at the same time. He was so... His mind has not developed yet to a point where he could comprehend what was happening.
Well, I get how that kid felt, because when I came here for WrestleMania 18 when I was a kid, I thought I met Stone Cold Steve Austin outside. And I told everyone at school for like weeks, it was just some bald guy with a leather vest on. We took my dad's showing me that photo, and it's clearly just some random guy. The whole night I was like,
I took a photo with the Stone Cold?
And like, the whole night I was like, I can't believe we met Stone Cold. My dad's like, that wasn't Stone Cold. It was just some guy dressed up like him.
Your dad was like very clear with you right from the jump.
I could have sworn until I was like 14 that I told everyone about that till I saw the photo, and I'm like, this is just some bald guy with a goatee and a leather vest.
That's
and jean shorts. Like,
I just love the idea that some dude who looks like me put on a leather vest to go to a wrestling show, and you were just like, that's him.
Yeah.
That's the mall Santa of Stone Cold Steve Austin's, and you were just like, that's my guy. That's my hero.
Yeah. Should have been pretty suspect that he was just drinking beer outside, but I mean, it fit the profile.
Like, what an amazing ticket your dad must have bought to give you access to Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Is that frowned upon? Does nobody drinks beer in this anymore, eh? Like, does that happen anymore?
I mean, nobody does it, like, out in the ring anymore, but I don't feel like that's because of a culture shift or anything. I feel like that's because that's Stone Cold's thing. Anybody who would, like, come out with a cooler full of beer now would just be accused of being a rip-off.
I just assumed as a kid that they kept the cooler right beside the commentary, because after he finished, they'd always just be throwing him beer. So I just always thought the boys just had pops, like, ready to go.
That's
like,
basically, it wasn't for anybody but him, though. Like, it was legendarily off limits for anybody else. But yeah, there was just like a little Coleman cooler that would be tucked in sort of over by where the ring bell was, and there was a guy that, like, I feel like different people threw Steve Austin beer over the years, but at some point he like developed a chemistry, like a quarterback wide receiver vibe with somebody, and that became his guy.
You know how they have like cocaine and like all that stuff in those like indie wrestling things?
So there's a wrestler named Kane who's like a big red monster kind of guy, and yes, on the independents, this is like over explaining for people who don't know, there are people who've taken this sort of like leather outfit and mask and changed the color. There's blue cane and cocaine and candy cane,
a bunch of them. I think that what they should do is like lukewarm Steven and like they just toss him like bags of wine and he just cracks the hatch in the ring. Like,
shoot, a guy standing on like the second turnbuckle, like jawing out of the crowd, and then holding a box of wine and trying to tilt it at the right angle to get it to pour out into his mouth.
Instead of the middle finger, it's just like pinkies up to the crowd. Like, He's actually sophisticated.
He's very classy.
Yeah.
He's very classy. And he wants to know if you want to come over Tuesday night after yoga.
Yeah.
He's like, listen, no fighting. Let's just be friends. Let's have a very sophisticated sip.
Instead of glass shattering, it's just a microwave going off from his like lean cuisine.
Man, you know what I'm bummed out about for this weekend, though?
What's that?
There was no title matches yesterday on SmackDown, and none of the matches tonight can end up in a title change. There will be, no one will win a championship in Toronto. And isn't that the most fitting Toronto sports weekend? Nobody wins a championship in Toronto.
I mean, you know what? I'm glad that nobody's winning a championship here. I was going to say this is the J season, but we all know that's not true.
Well, no. Ever since those commercials that one season that were like, this is the year, before the season even started, it feels like the team's been kind of cursed.
I am interested to see, because like The Rock's supposed to be here, and he wants that guy's soul and all this stuff. And
there's a lot going on.
He offered Buddy like a Ford Raptor last night for his soul, which was hilarious.
What's the absolute least you'd sell your soul for, and is it a Ford Raptor?
I mean, I feel like it'd have to be a house, at least.
Sorry,
right?
I don't want to interrupt you. That's Lillian Garcia walking by right there.
Oh, no way.
SmackDown ring announcer and former Monday Night Raw mainstay, Lillian Garcia, just hanging out up here now.
Lillian, what would you sell your soul for?
Lillian, buy me a Raptor.
Should I ask her if she'd come on the podcast, or is that too embarrassing?
I feel like she's with the guy who gave us our passes to get in here, and also just started freaking out because she recognized someone. So I feel like if you go over there, you're not coming back.
I thought she recognized me, but I guess I was wrong.
Dude, if literally anyone in this building, and I include all the work staff, all the wrestlers, all the media, and the 30,000 people who are filing in went, oh my God, it's Brock, I would lose my shit.
I saw some guy outside that recognized me from high school. Does that count?
Does he listen to the podcast?
Nope. I used my weed off him, but nice guy. Seems like he's doing all right.
Good for him, man. I'm glad to hear that he's really either turned his life around or has really made a living in selling weed. Whichever one it is, I'm proud of him.
But going back to selling your soul, I mean, what's the price for you?
God, you know what? I would say it would probably have to at least be my mortgage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's got to be a house, right?
I looked at my mortgage the other day, and it was $300,000 remaining owing. So, yeah, I would say you could probably get my soul for $300K.
Maybe some Bitcoin or something.
No, it would have to be some Bitcoin from like 2010.
Sure.
Don't give me no current Bitcoin. I need some Bitcoin that's going to grow into something.
I mean, fame, right? Yeah.
Honestly, we kind of have.
I guess it depends on what kind of fame we're talking about. Like if it's like 15 minutes of fame kind of thing.
Like that's just it. Like I'm kind of comfortable with our current level of fame, where like we can walk around and no one's going to really stop us except for the odd person that used to sell us weed. You know what I mean? Like I think that's a pretty good level of fame.
That's not even fame, man. That's just the homies.
But yeah, like I think that's kind of the funny thing about this whole idea is like. Even my girlfriend texted me and was like, this motherfucker's going to sell his soul for a $20,000 truck? I would hope that your soul is worth more than that.
Yeah, realistically, there's some guys out there that would do that.
There's guys that would sell their soul for a tank of gas. Never mind the whole truck.
Some guys that would sell it for a lift kit. It's crazy, man.
I'm just saying, if you're the type of person to sell your soul for a lift kit for your truck, your soul's not worth a lift kit.
I got some cousins that were killing it in Fort Mac that spent all their money that would kill to have those trucks back right now.
Oh, man. You know, I'm jealous every time you bring it up, though, that, like, this is the second time that you've seen a wrestling show here inside the Skydome.
Yeah.
Because you were here for WrestleMania X8.
That was crazy.
What was that like?
I mean, I was like 8 years old at the time, so like that was like, and it's like peak, like just before the Attitude Era ended.
Right, The Rock is there, Stone Cold's there, Hulk Hogan's there.
Oh man, we were kind of sitting. I mean, no one can see where I'm pointing, but just over there, like where the outfield would be above like the Jays bullpen.
Oh yeah.
And I just remember coming in, and everyone was hanging their signs like over, and it was just a sea of signs everywhere. And then they had the Sunday Night Heat starting, and like Scotty 2 Hotty came out, and I was like so fired up because he did the worm and whatnot.
Sick.
And then what was it? It was like Undertaker versus Ric Flair was a big match. Scott Hall versus Stone Cold, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, the Hulk Hogan versus The Rock. Like the environment was just so nuts, and I just remember like little things of. The guy was walking up and down the aisle trying to sell ice cream, and he's like, Haagen-Dazs, like peanuts, like I got this. And every time he'd say something, like he'd be like, Haagen-Dazs, and the crowd would go, what?
What?
Peanuts, what? I got chips, what? And then it got to a certain point halfway through the night where he was like, can you guys just stop?
He was losing it. He had enough.
Yeah.
They bullied this poor ice cream salesman.
It was the little things like that. And my biggest regret from that night was my old man. We went to the merch table, and he was like, do you want a belt? I'll buy you a belt.
A full-on, like, real-ass belt?
Do you remember, like, the Stone Cold belts that they had?
Yeah,
the
Smoking
ones?
Skull belt.
Yeah, exactly. So he was like, I'll buy that belt. And I was like, I want the Kane mask. I got a fucking Kane mask.
Do you still have it?
No, dude. I went home. Me and my buddy started wrestling in the basement, broke the Kane mask because it was like made in China, piece of crap.
Oh my God.
And I remember saying to him, I went upstairs with my dad and I was like, do you think we can get the belt? And he was like, no. Like, that was 3 days ago. Like, what are you talking about?
It's too late. The moment is gone. He was overwhelmed with endorphins of like, I'm having this cool moment with my son and I'm willing to spend money.
I hated
and you fucking blew it.
I hated Kane after that. And it was my own fault. But I despised Kane after that. Biggest regret.
Yo, look on the big screen right now. That's a sick Blue Jays title belt. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and say it. The Lombardi Trophy in the NFL is shit. The fucking World Series, the little like spiral pennant thing, sucks. They need to start doing actual title belts for more major sports.
Honestly, the title belt is pretty nice. I mean, like, they do that for the parades and whatnot, but I mean...
But that's WWE basically marketing,
giving it to them, yeah.
Like, imagine if the NFL was like, okay, why don't we stop handing out this fucking trinket you'd see on your granddad's war chest? And instead we make this big gold jewel-encrusted title. And then you hand that over to the like winning team,
or even if it's just MVP trophies, like you know, like imagine that at the end of the Stanley Cup, like the Conn Smythe just gets traded into a belt, and then that guy gets to wear it as he's hoisting the Stanley Cup.
And just to be very clear to anyone who's listening, you will notice that I did not mention the Stanley Cup. That should never change.
Greatest trophy of all time.
The Stanley Cup is fucking amazing, and that should stay the way that it is forever. But you're right. Keep the trophies for the team, but turn MVP awards into title belts.
Yeah.
And let the guys wear it every game until someone else wins it. Imagine Austin Matthews in some alternate universe wins an MVP title belt and comes out for pregame skates wearing it every game.
Well, it's kind of like in those weird European leagues. They'll have dudes wear like a yellow helmet or something, right? To kind of signify that they're the goal leader of the thing. But I was also thinking, I mean, someone's probably had to do this. Some like wrestling nerd has had to do this. You get married instead of rings. You exchange belts.
Well, I got a buddy. Shout out to Matt, who I do know listens to the podcast. Road Crew Matt, I call him. He got married a few years ago, and me and a bunch of dudes from his like groom party chipped in, and we presented him with a title.
Sick.
By having him pin his best man. I was the unofficial referee.
Like, if your girl is like super into wrestling, I mean, I think it only works if she's into wrestling, but if you propose to her with the heavyweight championship or something, you know?
You cash in your money in the bag briefcase.
Or if you're a girl and you want to flip the script, it's 2025, you can propose to your guy.
Absolutely.
Give him the King of the Ring crown.
That would be amazing.
I want you to be my king.
Oh, dude, there's not one guy out there, especially a wrestling fan, who wouldn't go, yes, my queen.
Rock hard. Instantly. You can smell what he's cooking, I'm telling you.
There's so many places in real life that wrestling just perfectly fits. It makes me laugh so hard when people are like, wrestling is childish. Like, fucking everything is wrestling. Everything is storylines and promos and feuds and shit like that.
Yeah.
People just got to be more open because wrestling is beautiful.
Yeah, if only you could figure out how to make like an Elimination Chamber porno.
my brother in Christ, you know for a fact
It starts
that
off
has
with
to
2,
exist.
and then every
I
2 minutes.
guarantee you that already exists. The only way it doesn't exist is if whatever adult film company just couldn't afford to build the structure.
Yeah.
But like Royal Rumble and shit like that, that's just a gangbang. That's just a gangbang.
Every time you come, you get eliminated. It's whoever lasts.
2
the
people
longest.
start, every 2 minutes someone else joins in.
Holy.
And if you go over the top, you're out.
Hell in a Cell is wild.
Well, you got to click into a very specific part of the website and sign consent for those.
Yeah.
They are also out there.
Oh man.
All right. Well, we are about 10 minutes away from this event going, and if it's been loud behind us already, with this like 30,000 person crowd filing into the Skydome, it's only going to get louder right away. So
Yeah.
thank you guys for hanging out with us and letting us just talk a bunch of bullshit.
And there's like some real broadcast person for the WWE actually talking on a mic beside us, so maybe me talking about porn wasn't a good look. But
I'm not going to lie to you, Lillian Garcia did just finish her conversation and come walking up the stairs.
She got a picture
She
of
is
this.
heading over there. She stared directly at us. So
let's get a picture. Let's try and get a picture.
all right. Thank you for listening. Go ahead and tell them, tell them to keep it sexy at the very
Y'all
least.
keep it sexy.
Bye, everybody.
For more Brock and Dalby, tune in weekday mornings 5:30 to 9.
The Brock and Dalby podcast is brought to you by badshop.ca, the Brock and Dalby merch store. With all proceeds going to the Canadian Cancer Society.